75. Mind Monkey drills through the yin-yang body. Demon lords return to the true great way. We were telling you about that great sage son, who walked inside the cave to look left and right. He saw a mound of skeletons, a forest of dead bones, human hair packed together as blankets, and human flesh trodden as dirt and dust. Human tendons knotted on the trees were dried, parched, and shiny like silver. In truth, there were mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Indeed, the putrid stench was terrible. The little fiends on the east gouged out flesh from living persons. The brazen demons on the west boiled and cooked fresh human meat. Only handsome Monkey King had such heroic gall. No other mortal would dare enter this door. After a little while, he walked through the second-level door to look around inside. What he saw in here was quite different from the outside. It was a place both quiet and elegant, both handsome and spacious. On the left and right were exotic grass and rare flowers. There were old pines and aged bamboos front and back. He had to walk, however, for another 7 or 8 miles before he reached the third-level door, through which he stole a glance. Inside the door, and sitting loftily on 3 high seats, were 3 old fiends, who appeared most savage and hideous. The middle one had teeth like files and saws, a round head and a square face. He had a voice like thunder, and flashing eyes like lightning. His nose curled skyward. His brows sprouted flames. When he moved, all other beasts trembled. When he sat, all demons shook and quivered. This was the king of beasts, the green-haired lion fiend. The one to his left had phoenix eyes and golden pupils, yellow tusks and stubby legs, long nose and silver hair, a head that seemed tail-like, knotted brows beneath his round forehead, and a huge, rugged torso. He had a soft voice like a lissom beauty, but his white face was a bull-head demon's, a brute of prolonged self-cultivation. This was the yellow-tusked old elephant. The one to his right had golden wings and leviathan head, star-like pupils and leopard eyes. He ruled the north, governed the south. Fierce, strong, and courageous. Coming alive, he could fly and soar, while quails quaked and dragons dreaded. When he shook his feathers, all the birds went into hiding. When he stretched his sharp claws, all the fowl cowered in terror, able to reach a cloudy distance of 90,000 miles. This was the Great Eagle Rock. Below them stood some 100 captains, all in complete armor and military regalia, and looking most truculent and fierce. When Pilgrim saw them, however, he was filled with delight. Not the least bit frightened, he marched through the door in big strides, and after he dropped his rattle, he lifted his head and said, "Great kings." Smiling broadly, the 3 old demons said, "Little Wind Cutter, have you returned?" "I have indeed," replied Pilgrim in a ringing voice. "Have you found out anything about Pilgrim's son when you were on patrol in the mountain, in the presence of the great kings?" replied Pilgrim. "I dare not speak." "Why not?" asked the first old demon. "By the command of the great kings," said Pilgrim. "I went forward, beating my rattle and shaking my bell. As I walked along, I suddenly caught sight of a person squatting by a brook. Even then, he looked like a trailblazing deity, and if he had stood up, he would have been undoubtedly over 100 feet tall. Bailing some water from the brook, he was polishing with it a huge pole on a rock. As he did so, he kept mumbling to himself that up till now, he hadn't been able to show off the magic power of his pole. Once he had polished the pole enough to make it glow, he said he would come and use it on the great kings. I knew he had to be that Pilgrim's son, and that's why I have returned to make my report." When that old demon heard these words, he perspired profusely. Shaking all over, he said, "Brothers, I told you not to bother the Tang monk. His disciple has such vast magic powers that he has already made plans for us. Now he is polishing his rod to beat us up. What shall we do?" Then he gave this order: "Little ones, summon all the soldiers outside the cave to come in. Shut the door and let those priests pass." One of the captains who knew what had happened said immediately, "Great King, the little fiends guarding the door outside have all scattered." "How could they have all scattered?" asked the old demon. "They must have heard the bad news, too. Shut the door quickly. Shut the door quickly." The various fiends hurriedly banged the front and back doors shut and bolted them. Becoming somewhat alarmed, Pilgrim thought to himself, "After they close the doors, they might question me on some other business in their house. If I can't answer them, I will give myself away. Won't I be caught then? Let me scare them a little bit more, so that they'll open the doors again for me to flee, if I need to." He therefore went forward again and said, "Great kings, that Pilgrim's son said something that's even more dreadful." "What else did he say?" asked the old demon. Pilgrim said, "He said that when he had caught hold of the three of you, he would skin the great king, he would debone the second great king, and he would pull out the tendons of the third great king. If you shut your doors and refuse to go out, he is capable of transformations, you know. He may well change into a tiny fly, come in through a crack in the door, and seize all of us. What shall we do then?" "Brothers," said the old demon, "be careful. There is hardly a fly in our cave. If you see a fly coming in here, it has to be that Pilgrim's son." Smiling to himself, Pilgrim thought, "I'll give him a fly to scare him a bit. Then he'll open the doors." The great sage stepped to one side and pulled off a piece of hair behind his head. Blowing a mouthful of immortal breath on it, he whispered, "Change." And it at once changed into a gold-headed fly, which darted up and flew smack into the face of the old demon. "Brothers, this is awful," cried a horrified old demon. "That little something has entered our door." Those fiends, young and old, were so terrified that they took up pitchforks and brooms to swat madly at the fly. Unable to contain himself, our great sage broke into loud giggles, which, alas, he should have never permitted himself to do. For once he laughed, his original features also appeared. When the third old demon saw him, he leapt forward and grabbed him, crying, "Elder brothers, we were almost fooled by him." "Who is fooling whom?" asked the first old demon. "The one who was speaking to us just now," replied the third fiend. "Was no little wind cutter. He is Pilgrim's son. He must have run into little wind cutter, slain him somehow, and changed into his appearance to deceive us here." Greatly shaken, Pilgrim said to himself, "He has recognized me." Rubbing his face hurriedly with his hand to correct his features, he said to those fiends, "How could I be Pilgrim's son? I am the little wind cutter. The great king has made a mistake." "Brother," said the old demon, smiling, "he is little wind cutter. For 3 times every day he answers my roll call. I know him." Then he asked Pilgrim, "Do you have your nameplate?" "I do," replied Pilgrim, and he took it out at once from inside his clothes. More convinced than ever, the old fiend said, "Brother, don't falsely accuse him." "Elder brother," said the third fiend, "didn't you see him? He was giggling just now with his face half turned, and I saw for a moment a thunder god beak on him. When I grabbed him, he changed back immediately into his present looks. He then called out, 'Little ones, bring me some ropes.' The captains took out ropes immediately. Wrestling Pilgrim to the ground, the third fiend had him hog-tied before they hitched up his clothes to examine him. It became apparent at once that he was the Ban horse plague, all right. Pilgrim, you see, was capable of 72 kinds of transformation. If it was a matter of changing into a fowl, a beast, a plant, a utensil, or an insect, his entire body could be transformed. But when he had to change into another person, Only his face, but not his body, could be transformed. When they lifted up his clothes, therefore, they saw a body full of brown fur, 2 red buttocks, and a tail. When he saw this, the first old fiend said, "Though he may have the face of little wind cutter, it's the body of Pilgrim's son. It's Little ones, bring us some wine first, so that I may present to the third great king a cup of merit. Since we have caught Pilgrim's son, there is no doubt that the Tang monk will be the food of our mouths. Let's not drink wine just yet," said the third fiend. Pilgrim's son is an exceedingly slippery character, for he knows many ways of escape. I fear we may lose him. Tell the little ones to haul out our vase and put Pilgrim's son inside it. Then we can drink. Exactly. Exactly, said the old demon, laughing loudly. He at once summoned 36 little fiends to go to their weapons chamber and haul out the vase. How big was the vase, you ask? Why would it need 36 persons to carry it? Though it was no more than 24 inches tall, that vase was a treasure governed by the double primal forces of yin and yang. Its magic reactions inside were activated by the 7 jewels, the 8 trigrams, and the 24 solar terms. Only 36 persons, a number which corresponded to the number of constellations in the heavenly ladle group, would have sufficient strength to lift it up. In a little while, the little fiends had the treasure vase hauled out and set before the 3rd level door. After they had unpacked it from its wrappings and removed the stopper, they untied Pilgrim and stripped him naked. Then they carried him up to the mouth of the vase, and immediately he was sucked inside with a loud whoosh by the immortal breath of the vase. It was then covered again with its stopper, on top of which they added a tape to seal it. Beckoning his companions to join him to drink, the old fiend said,